this is Katya from Pacifica with Love. I'm happy to greet you on my YouTube channel where I'm telling you about Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, San Francisco Bay Area and beyond. If you have not subscribed to my channel, yes, please do so. And if you like this video, I'll be happy if you write a comment or support me with a like. In today's video, I would like to devote to a fascinating and rich history of Pacifica. Some of you may think that Pacifica is just another residential community located about 10-15 miles to the south of San Francisco. However, it has a very rich and fascinating history. And that history actually originated here where we're just standing right now. And I'm here with Bridget. She's a docent at Pacifica Sanchez Adobe. And we're happy that she can share with us a little bit about Pacifica history.
Okay, so Mr. Portola's expedition was the second expedition coming up from the Mexican area. One of his guys in the expedition saw San Francisco Bay.
And who was Portola, if you could tell us?
Portola was this famous explorer from Spain. And Spain was just trying to make California Spanish because
colonizing,
yes. Okay, so he came here, and the Ohlones, the natives, were very good to him and helped him go up and around. And Lindemar Beach is a nice, accessible beach. So they came in from there, and this area was ideal because it had fresh water, which no longer exists.
The creek, right?
And a better environment. It was warmer. It wasn't salty water, which they couldn't grow crops from, and sandy soil. And because they were Catholics, they wanted the Ohlones to be Catholic. They were not given a choice, and they were the manpower. So their way of life was completely different from the Spanish. Unfortunately, within probably 34 years, most of them died because they were not able to tolerate the Spanish different infections.
The measles, mumps, rubella, yes, that's what the European colonizers brought here, right? And they were never exposed to those diseases before, and now those Europeans brought those here.
Yes. So you notice on the ground here, there are poles, and that was where the original, they called it an asistencia, because it was assisting the Mission Dolores in San Francisco. So when we go in there, you'll see how the layout was. And of course, this is the Catholic. They did baptisms and marriages and funerals and stuff. So this is a cart that was in the early Spanish period, taking stuff up to the mission. Okay.
So basically, just to summarize what you said, is the first inhabitants here were Ohlone Indians, right? Those that were the natives. They lived here until I think it was like what I read, 1769, 69, when Gaspar de Portola, the Spanish military officer, just accidentally, I think he was he trying to get more to the Monterey Bay areas, and then accidentally
this was his second trip up. They had been able to they had not been able to find Monterey the first trip.
Monterey the first trip. I see. So and that basically mistake that led him here, actually that's how this whole story started, right, around this area. And so Spanish colonizers were the ones who came here first, and unfortunately, as you said, resulted in extermination, right, of the native population here. And then Mexicans were the ones who came here, and then they set up a mission in San Francisco. And this territory, right, they liked it because it had fresh water, right, and they could grow some crops and supply mission with food, right,
and labor.
And labor as well, as well. And Bridget, if you could tell us a little bit this adobe that we see right in front of here.
This adobe was built in the Mexican period. Mr. Sanchez was what they call an alcalde, which was like a sheriff or the guy in charge of the military in San Francisco. And when they retired, they used to get land grants. So he got a land grant that's about the size of Pacifica. And you can see, if you follow the hills, it's all this land on this side. About 9,000 acres, I was told.
And which year was the adobe built?
The adobe was built between 1842 and 1846.
4 years,
and
right?
It's built of adobe bricks, and the adobe bricks are very big, and it's why the walls are so big, and they can weigh up to 20 pounds each.
Wow.
So,
where did they get the bricks from?
the dirt.
Oh, the dirt. Interesting. And is this the original building?
This original building, yes, there's 3 rooms on the top and on the bottom. Okay?
And that's where Sanchez lived, right?
Yes.
That was his personal residence,
Yeah.
right?
Mr. Sanchez and his wife had 13 children, and 11 of them lived. So they went from, a long, some of them were 20 when the last one was born. So.
And it's great that this building survived the earthquake, right, in 1906. So evidently the way they built it, right, was very reliable.
Yes. Okay. So originally the white covering wasn't there. The white covering was to help preserve what was underneath, because it's 170 years old, approximately.
And what was in this building after, or maybe you'll show us a little bit.
Okay, so here again is a summary of the 4 periods of this area. The Ohlones were here. They're called Costanoans, and there are multiple different tribes that are related to each other, but they all like to be independent. The Ramaytush were the Ohlone of here. So they were hunter-gatherers. They lived in a house that was made of tule, and this is tule right here. And what they would do is they'd be in a certain area, and then they'd move to other areas, and of course they didn't have to, that's building a house for them. I'm sure it wasn't easy. These are,
how was this discovered? Was there like archaeological expeditions here, or
there had to be
any written records?
We can look at the book over, and there's a Pacifica
sure.
book there too. These are grinding bowls, and these are for acorns, which was a big part of the Ohlone diet. An interesting fact about that is that acorns don't grow along the coast because it's not hot enough. So they had to go get them east and south. So they had to go get them, bring them back, soak them because they were high acid, dry them, grind them, cook them, eat them. So it's a lot of big deal.
It's a lot of effort,
And
right?
over here we have another tool made of basalt, and the difference between this and the others is this was used to grind flat, like corn. You put the corn on here, and then you grind it. And we're told that the women spent 6 hours a day making tortillas. That's a lot of work.
And this is the original Indian population, or already the Mexican?
No, this was
the original.
Okay, so the next period was the Spanish period with Mr.
So before 1769, it's the Indian period, and starting for 1769, that's when Gaspar de Portola arrived here. That starts the Spanish period.
And we talked about coming up this way, and one of the guys saw the San Francisco Bay, and they were very dependent on the Ohlones, who were friendly to them, thank goodness, and they were shown and given food, and this is where we are, right here.
Right here.
San Pedro. And this valley remained San Pedro long after the Asistencia was gone and Mr. Sanchez lived here. It became Lindamar when Pacifica was incorporated in 1957.
Yes.
So here's a picture of the original house and the Ohlones working. And as I mentioned, the river was there, and on the other side of that was the Costanoan village. Okay, so then the Mexican period came, and Mr. Sanchez was of the
So
Mexican.
Mexicans came and they took over those territories from the Spanish, right?
Yes. Okay, so here's I'll show you the acreage, and it's basically the size of Pacifica, and here we are, right here.
So this was like a farm outpost, right, of the mission, and that's what they
In the Spanish
in the
period.
Spanish period, and then after that was took over by
The house was built in 1840, which was part of the Mexican period. And this is the original
Oh,
dwelling.
this is the drawing. Interesting. Look at
And
that.
then later on, they put it on the veranda. Okay. Okay. So Mr. Sanchez and his family lived here, and about 20 years or so, he fell off a horse and died.
Oh.
And his family stayed a little while longer, but the dwelling was empty for a while, and then a general, from which war we don't know, purchased the property, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
And this is already the American period, right? Starting from 1848. Okay.
And you'll notice here that the house was added onto on both sides.
Oh.
And it was made into a hotel and a bordello and a
Yeah, speak easy,
storage.
right? Yes.
Who knows what else. And then after he left, the house got really bad again. And it really got bad. And so the county bought the property in the 50s.
And
it's
restored, right?
And on this picture, you can see there's an extra room or structure that was on that side, which is no longer there. It had deteriorated too much. This is an example of an adobe brick, and that's the reason the walls are so thick.
Interesting. And you feel it's really cool. It creates like a natural air conditioning too.
The original floor was not tile like this.
right.
It had a combination of dirt and some, I'm not sure what, so it wasn't dirt. And because of the dust problem, dust coming from upstairs, they had some kind of a curtain structure that would catch the dust, and then they would dump it outside. Okay.
Very interesting, yeah.
Okay, so over here are some things that have been found on the property. Some of them are bones and some of them are other things. We have an annual fiesta day.
Yeah, actually, this was just happening, and I briefly was here. People were dancing and singing. Very nice.
Now, on these signs, you'll notice that there's way more going on in the same room, not just the dining room area. And these are of the period, not of the house.
Yeah, so it didn't belong to the house, but you tried to restore it in line with the time, right?
And the furniture was quite different. This would turn milk to make cheese, and there's a coffee grinder, and of course the stove. And there was no electricity, so there were candles and lanterns. So that was an additional issue with the fire.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
And they didn't have electricity, so they had to do something, because there was no radio or TV, so they had projects and things in the evenings. And somebody showing off their prowess, I guess.
Right.
Okay,
Very
over here
nice.
we have a bunch of tools and things that were used in the 18th century and 19th century. And here again is of the Ohlone period. They were hunter-gatherers. They made nets. They made the tule house, and they made baskets. Okay, so this shows you a picture of the trading that went along here. They would bring things here that the inhabitants didn't have and give away some of the steer and cows and stuff, hides. Hides were big. This is an example of a hide.
Yeah.
And it has his,
Oh, Francisco Sanchez.
so you could tell whose animal it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the
That's-
portrait of Francisco Sanchez that was, and you mentioned he was the general, and I think he was also considered like a mayor of San
Yes,
Francisco.
they called him
and
an alcalde.
Alcalde and a comandante of Presidio, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The men who did a lot of hunting and with the animals, they were called vaqueros. And that means cowboy.
Uh-huh.
And this is an example of a man's saddle. This is an example of a woman's saddle. It's called a side saddle. The women wear dresses. Even the young girls wore dresses. So it would be very difficult for them to get on the saddle. And this sits on that. That's what this is, why it looks so different. Okay. And again, they made blankets and rope because they had to, you couldn't go to the grocery store or the Macy's, you know. So lanterns and candles for light, gourds for water. They don't have water bottles like we do. And over here, because of no refrigerator, they had to hang their vegetables and fruits in a cool, dry place
In a
to
cool
preserve
place,
them.
yes, to preserve.
This is a grape crusher, and that's for storing wine, I believe. These are 3 samples of traps. They would trap animals that were smaller. This is used as a sharpening tool, and the saw in the back has 1 person on each end. Okay.
And all these
And so
artifacts.
this is what the brand looked like.
And Bridget, all these artifacts, were they actually found in this house, or those
No.
are again typical just for these times?
For this time.
For this time.
Okay.
Very interesting.
So then we can go upstairs. Upstairs are 2 different bedrooms and
Oh,
how
okay.
they kind of put them together.
Put them-
And the room that's like this was where they socialized and had dances and things.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
Were there any other buildings, or he was here by himself?
I don't know of any other buildings except where the tribe lived over on the other, and that was in there.
Because I was just wondering if the Sanchez family were the only ones here.
Probably not. but,
Probably not, but we don't, they maybe not preserved, right? Very interesting history. I'm sure a lot of people living here don't know about that.
Okay, it's part of Highway 1 up there, going into the tunnels.
Yeah, for sure. We can see it from our window. And before we go in there, if you could say a couple of words about this interpretive center that we can see.
Yeah, the interpretive center came about 2 2.5 years ago, and it has a very good summary of the different 4 periods of this location.
Interesting, thank you.
Oh, yeah. And the activity room, okay? The furniture is very heavy and very different from today. And over here we have something that's very interesting. We're told that it's one of 6. It's called a square grand.
Oh,
and it's not a harpsichord either, so
square grand,
I've never
how
heard it.
interesting. Wow.
So here's an example of one of the bedrooms. Very big, thick, heavy furniture. The dresses the women were
At the time, right?
yep. And here's a baby cradle and a night dress. Because there was no water in the house, they had to use pitchers and bowls, and the water had to be brought in and then taken away. There was also no bathrooms, no showers, so they had
Oh yeah, so
bowls underneath.
yeah, they had to wash like
Yeah, and I'll
using
show
a
you
bowl.
in the other room. And this picture is showing what the house looked like when it was added onto on both ends, when it was the hotel.
Was it a hotel for a long time?
We're not exactly sure. I think
Sure.
for probably 20, 30 years, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's another example of the room. And you see the bowl underneath the bed. And
Was it the kids' room?
well, I think it was both. So that's where the little boots come from. And another example of a cradle, which is very different from today. And again, no running water, so they had to bring the water up here and take it away. And this is an example of a sewing machine that was used before there was electricity. And the way to make it work is to push on the bottom. It's called a treadle machine.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much for telling us. It's really fascinating history about this area in Adobe, and if you could tell us just a little bit about how this center is used these days. So, and where can, if people are interested to visit, what are the days that you're open? And yeah,
We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 12 to 4, and in the morning of those same days, there usually is the 4th graders and their teachers who come here for the history lesson.
oh, that's wonderful.
And they get to make candles, and they get to walk around in the mud to make an adobe brick.
And then on obviously weekends also open, right?
12 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday.
12 to 4. Okay, awesome. And then also once a year you have that
Fiesta Day.
Fiesta Day.
And it's the 3rd weekend of September.
If you want to learn more about Pacifica history, I highly recommend that you visit the Pacifica Museum. Also, there is a book called Pacifica. It's written by Chris Hunter, Bill Drake, and the Pacifica Historic Society. And here you can find a lot of fascinating stories about Pacifica, including Adobe, as well as a lot of photographs of that photographs throughout the Pacifica history. If you like this video, please support me with a like, write a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more videos on Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, Bay Area, and beyond.